next to each other. And this must come to an end. Honorable team, I am happy today that as a ranking member of the Nairobi Members of Parliament, you and KJ, you have stood firm and you have gone on record that you stood with us. The Nairobi River Commission was not under my ministry, but now it's coming to my ministry. Yet you stood with us, the multi-agency team, you stood with the president and all of us, and Beatrice Elachi is also here. We will help us clean Nairobi River. More, I'll talk about it, Mr. Speaker, when we reach the question of Honorable TJ Kajuang on Nairobi River.
Next question, honorable members, let's go to the next question by the Honorable TJ Kajuang. Eh? No, it's, sorry, it's the Honorable Member of Parliament for Nakuru, Madam Liza Chelule. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Waziri, welcome, and we congratulate you for your new position of CS for Environment. My question, Mr. Speaker, sir, is 107 of 2024, and it is as follows. Could the Cabinet Secretary elaborate on the initiative undertaken by the ministry to preserve wetlands and water catchment areas within the country, and further state the effectiveness of such institution? My number 2 question, Mr. Speaker, sir, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the measures of the ministry, the ministry has put in place to safeguard indigenous trees planted in Kenya forests, considering the significant threat posed by charcoal burning activities? My question number 3, Mr. Speaker, sir, could the Cabinet Secretary provide the status of the community forest associations nationwide, and further state the steps taken by the ministry to ensure those associations are adequately equipped and trained to actively engage in seed propagation, particularly in light of the government's plan to plant 15 billion trees within the next decade? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Member for Nakuru County, my sister, seeks to know the initiative that the ministry has undertaken to preserve our heritage, our wetlands, and catchment areas. Mr. Speaker, at the policy level, the ministry has put in place National Wetland Conservation and Management Policy 2009 to ensure how we use and the sustainable management of our wetlands in the country, and to ensure sustained ecological and socio-economic functions for the wetlands for both the present and for future generations. Mr. Speaker, the ministry is now implementing that policy jointly with other stakeholders in order to protect and safeguard wetlands. 2, Mr. Speaker, the ministry has developed and is enforcing the Wetlands Regulations 2009, which was passed under the Environmental Management and Coordination Act, Cap 387 laws of Kenya. These regulations, Mr. Speaker, provides a framework that will ensure all wetland resources in our country are utilized in a very sustainable manner, compatible with the continued presence of wetlands and their ecological goods and services. Mr. Speaker, the ministry has also designated 6 wetlands in the country as far as the Ramsar sites. Ramsar is a convention that Kenya has signed internationally in 1992. These sites include Lake Nakuru in Nakuru County, Lake Elimantaita in Nakuru County, Lake Bogoria in Baringo County, Lake Baringo in Baringo County, Lake Naivasha in Nakuru County, and Tana Delta in Tana River County. Thirdly, to promote wise use and conservation of our wetlands and all the associated resources, my ministry is implementing the management plans for several wetlands in our country. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to read, it's a long list. I have provided.
Kote nchini mbele tuendelee, mbele Kenya twende mbele.
Swamp in Trans Nzoia, Kibiroing Wetland Management Plan in Nandi, which are all ongoing, and Lake Bogoria Management Plan, which is under review. Honorable Speaker, the ministry is also restoring all our degraded wetlands by mobilizing various stakeholders, including the national government agencies, county governments, the private sector, NGOs, and the general public and our local communities to restore all degraded areas through planting of trees, and it's part of the wider 15 billion trees growing initiative started by President William Ruto. And it's very, very important, Mr. Speaker, to note that the conservation and protection of our wetland is our sustainability strategy towards attaining 15 billion tree growing goal. Last but not least, Mr. Speaker, we are also implementing a very transformative initiative dubbed Adapt a Wetland, which is spearheaded by Ngomma. This initiative seeks to catalyze the participation of different stakeholders. But let me warn, Mr. Speaker, a number of our wetlands, people have title deeds. When we cancel them, I need the support of this House. People will bring petitions, people will bring motions, they might even bring an impeachment to discuss me. I want this House to protect, because I'll be protecting the wetlands. So cartels will use, I don't want cartels to use the floor of this House. I have seen it. When I talk about, I have lived here, I think a quarter of my life. So I know what goes on. Madam Speaker, the second question was explain the measures the minister has put in place on this matter. And Honorable Speaker, Honorable Lise seeks to know the measures. Allow me to respond to this by first observing that the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry is unwavering in its commitment to protecting Kenya's indigenous trees through regulatory enforcement. I have one of our top researchers, the CEO of KEFRI here with me, the scientific research we must protect, and community must be engaged, all of which are facilitated by Kenya Forest Service and Kenya Forest Research Institute, KEFRI, which is both in Muguga and in many of our counties. Honorable Speaker, Kenya Forest Service recently employed, as I say, 2,000 plus forest rangers to various regions and posted to various regions and forest stations to strengthen and protect and conserve efforts that our Member of Parliament from Nakuru County has raised. In the spirit of collaboration, the ministry has also deployed forest advisory staff to counties to advise our counties, give them advisory service, work with our county governments on forest conservation, on development, and on management issues. 3, to regulate tree harvesting on private lands, our ministry has implemented mandatory inspection and issuance of certificates of origin and movements of all forest permits for movements of all forest-related products. Finally, the ministry actively supports community forest association, formal groups of communities adjacent to our forest, which collaborates with KFS in sustainable management of our forest. The third And I think the final question, Mr. Speaker, is, third question that the member has asked is the status of Community Forest Association. Let me start by explaining the anchorage of Community Forest Association in the Kenyan laws. CFA, as they are called, are incorporated under Section 9 of the Societies Act, Cap 108, but they are domiciled in the forestry sector through Section 48, subsection 1 of the Forest Conservation and Management Act of 2016, passed by this august House. Section 49(1) of the Forest Community Management Association outlines the obligation of our Community Forest Association, their role, and they are given and granted permission to participate in how they help KFS in the management and in the conservation of our forest. Mr. Speaker, currently we have 233 Community Forest Association. A good example is a group that runs Karura Forest in collaboration with KFS. And they are spread across the country. There are 175 of them which are active. 17 of them are inactive. 41 of them are moderately active, with a total of 185,535 membership. All these Community Forest Associations, Mr. Speaker, are duly registered with the Registrar of Societies. So they have a legal backing. They help us to protect, conserve with our communities. And they live next to our forest in protecting our national heritage. Community Forest Association, Mr. Speaker, engage in forest management activities through what we call participatory forest management plans. Mr. Speaker, our ministry has taken the following steps to ensure Community Forest Associations are equipped and trained to support the 15 billion growing trees strategy of the Kenya Kwanza government. The ministry through KFS supports this group by doing what? In developing, in training them, in helping them with the good governance, and giving them good guidance on what to do, on how to sustainably manage the use of our forest resources and how our forest restoration activities can take place. Speaker, the ministry provides through KFS and KEFRI, it offers them training in forest governance. It offers them training in monitoring and compliance with the forest regulations, while KEFRI provides specialized training in seed propagation, nursery management, agroforestry production. Mr. Speaker, before I became a minister, I didn't know what is KEFRI and where they are. I really want to ask that one day, members, when you're free, you visit KEFRI in Miguga. It's a very cold place. You'll find 10s, 20 top researchers. They will tell you what you want. They will tell you the type of tree. They spend hours and years, Mr. Speaker. Very, very great institution. Mr. Speaker, the Community Forest Association are playing an increasingly significant role in helping us in creating awareness in tree growing campaigns. In this 15 billion, you'll find them on site. Seedling production, they have been given that role. They help us in producing those seeds. They help us in running nurseries, in planting and growing of trees in gazetted and outside gazetted forest. They protect planted trees from destruction and damage and Management Act of 2016. Mr. Speaker, I think I have answered all that to the member for Nakuru.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It's good to see my friend in the House today. He was the majority leader, and he left me seated here, and you'll always find me here, regardless what Sir George thinks. I'll always send to a forestman that seamlessly. Honorable Speaker, I want, probably it might not have an answer now, But I want you to engage your team to look at a series of hills in Funyula constituency, starting from Odiado Hills all the way to Busia Hill. For many years, during the times of Professor Julio Jambo, when she was the MP, the place was populated by trees, indigenous trees. Over time, as was clearly said, bad farming practices, deforestation, and tree cutting for construction size, charcoal burning, has decimated those trees, and then those hills are now bare. Is there a program within the ministry that private owners of land can collaborate with the ministry to ensure afforestation with the indigenous trees so that we preserve the environment and return the hills to the status they were in the 1970s and early 1980s? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Member of Women Rep for Wajir County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I want to tell the Waziri that you are in the right ministry. Listening to you gives me all the confidence that you can make a difference in this ministry. And I feel like it's the right time to make the Northeastern green, Mr. Waziri. Following up on the issue of the 15 billion trees that we are meant to plant between now and 2032, Mr. Minister, we have had a day for international tree planting, and it's somewhere in November, if I'm not wrong. Last year, we all went to the counties, and all the ministers planted all sorts of trees. But coming to where we come from, you and I, all those trees are not doing well. Are we having a scenario whereby we are just planting trees and we leave it, or we can plant trees for sustainability? I want you, when you go back, to look at the trees that were planted. I know you were not there. Find out how they are doing. I know your team can do that. They can do that work and see how they are faring. 2, I've been to the KFS many times. I was just hoping if we can have a land, a forestation land for Wajir, Mr. Minister. We have the land, but we don't have trees, we don't have water. But I believe if we were given water and trees, we can give you land that you can do very well, that people can come for benchmarking. And I'll repeat this, Mr. Minister, that by the time you leave this docket, I want you to paint Northeastern green. It's viable, it's possible, and we can make it, all of us. Thank you.
CS, I think you can take a few more and then answer them together. Yes. You can take 2 more. Yes. And then you answer them at one go. Oluoch, are you still on, or you have changed your mind? Okay, the MP for Seme then, if Oluoch is not interested.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I also take this opportunity to actually congratulate our colleague, having shifted from here, and how he's really picked very well in the new docket. But my question is to do with the preservation of indigenous trees. Some of these trees have actually very high commercial value, and their protection is important. Some have medicinal value, some have special oil values. Like, my question is specifically on sandalwood. I don't know whether it is indigenous tree or it's actually a tree that was brought in. But this tree apparently is very popular. It has some special oil, and there is always a lot of trafficking. People have been arrested, lorries have been arrested, carrying sandalwood. is it not possible, if this wood is so popular and has such a high commercial value, to actually grow it in a commercial scale? Not just protect what is there, but grow it in a commercial scale and actually export it, and it will give us foreign exchange. Thank you.
Boni. Waziri, because they're all pretty much similar, yes. I think you can take a few together. Yes.
Two of the most decorated clubs in English football. It is all
institutions. I'm very passionate in planting trees. And I want to request you, Waziri, that we need to engage people at home to do serious planting of indigenous trees and other trees, exotic trees. And I'm saying this, Mr. Speaker, sir, because if we don't engage the people of this country, even to plant in their private lands, we may not achieve what we want to achieve. Waziri, I hope you are aware that most rivers are disappearing because of degradation. And this one is happening because farmers around small rivers are doing plowing to the riverbanks. And this is actually encouraging the soil erosion to fill up the rivers. And this is what is happening at the community level. Banasias, you've only spoken about these big institutions, the government institutions. We want to speak about those rivers in our local areas. There are so many rivers that are drying up because of the quarry activities along those rivers. And as the CS, and I know you are not lazy, I would really request you that one day, you just move around and see what is happening in most of places in Kenya. So many activities, those bad activities is happening along the rivers. And rivers have actually disappeared. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wanted to request the CS. He has spoken actually about the KEFRI, and let us devolve KEFRI. I'm not saying we take all the officers from KEFRI or everything, but we need the seeds. They have good seeds, indigenous seeds and exotic seeds that Kenyans can plant. If only today tree seedlings is made free to Kenyans, you will see wonders. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So otherwise, I'm satisfied to some extent, but I know you will do it, Waziri.
CS,
thank you.
CS, you can answer those raft of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start with my very good friend, Honorable Member for Funyula. I also miss you. I mean, he was my colleague in Public House Committee. I hope you are still there. Yes, at least you are talking about hills. We have had many about mountains. So today is about hills. And where myself and the speaker come from, there are also small hills, the ant-hills, not as big as the ones of Busia. So I will really want to ask you that the private, our program for restoration, the 15 billion, also covers private land. And I want to ask you if those hills are available. Myself, yourself, the people of your area, with the KFS and KEFRI, we will have a day where we're going to plant 10, 20,000 trees. Our policy is not tree planting, it's tree growing. There's a difference between planting and growing. So 15 billion tree growing. And this is citizen driven. You'll find ministers in all our counties. We have allocated. All our ministers will go. So agroforestry is now under this ministry. It's very, very key. Farm, forestry, the 15 billion strategy, all these will go in hand. To Honorable Fatuma, I first want to assure you that KEFRI is going to Wajir. They are in Garissa, and they are going to open the first seedling center in Wajir. And please work with our governor and our county government. 60% of the 15 billion tree growing strategy are going to happen in the dryland part of our country. That is in the Assal. And coming to the question of Honorable Nyekal, I have missed you, and I have missed your many amendments. You know, when it was a committee of the whole House, I look at the order paper, I missed your many amendments. But still I read the order paper. I agree with you, and if you go to Kefri, they will show you how some of the species in our country are more valuable commercially. The perfumes you buy in Dubai, duty free, the products are found, the raw material is found in our forest, in our country. So if you just go to if you go to Dr. Jane, our acting CEO of Kefri, she will tell you which trees are good for which area of our country. So we don't even plant trees anywhere. Every area our scientists have identified. And I have a very long list, particularly for colleagues in the Assal. There are many trees that grow in our areas, but we don't know the value. But I have asked the Speaker to arrange for me a Kamkunji, maybe later in the month, so that we talk to our members on this 15 billion presidential tree growing area, so that under the environment aspect of your NGCDF, we can even if you pick a 30% which is fruit tree, and you take it to our rural constituencies, and you give to our rural women, that will change. Not only it will help us in the reforestation of our country, but it will help us reduce poverty within our communities. So please, I really want us to work on that. I think Honorable Boni, the Speaker, I'm not seeing him here.
He's there. Next.
Oh, he's there. Oh, he has come. Yes, he is a good friend of mine. I have also missed him. But Speaker, if you allow me, the problem is I cannot come to the bar. But I will come, and once I'm around here, you allow me to come and have tea at the lobby, like General Kaiseri, the late General Kaiseri used to do. And I agree with you. In our areas, Kitui, Garissa, the dryland areas, Dr. Jane and KFS have the solution of which trees that don't require a lot of water, that will grow and even will help the community in terms of commercial activity. And the fruit trees we can give to our rural women in your constituency. But that we'll have a meeting. I think, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Chelule gave very fair comments. We will take her comments. And on the quarries, we will deal with it. The man in charge of quarries, just text me which quarry is affecting our rivers. The NEMA person in Nakuru will either do his job or he'll work for the quarry owner. There's no choice between. So you either work for government or you work for the people who are doing business in various sectors. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The next question, I think you will get a bite in the next questions because all these questions are pretty much similar. The Honorable TJ, I notice you have just walked into the House and you have a question. Could you ask your question? Give him the order paper, please.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I can confirm to you that Ruaraka is in the House. Mr. Speaker, my question is number 129/2024. The question is directed to the Cabinet Secretary, Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. I want to ask questions about Nairobi River pollution and noise pollution. Number one.
Ask the question verbatim.
State the root cause or root causes of the Nairobi River pollution and why the river continues to be contaminated despite the many interventions made over the years by various institutions. Outline the number of facilities along the Nairobi River that are discharging effluent into the river and the steps the ministry has taken to address the situation. What measures, Mr. Speaker, are there to address the discharge of effluent into rivers and water sources in the country? And the last one on this, clarify whether illegal dumping or dump sites, including the infamous Dandora dump site located along the Nairobi River, are contributing to the Nairobi River pollution, and what measures are in place to remove illegal dump sites and dumping along rivers, including management of waste in urban areas. Mr. Speaker, state the steps taken by the ministry to address the increasing cases of noise pollution in the country, especially in residential areas within urban centers. Mr. Speaker, I ask.
Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, let me start, and I really want to thank Honorable TJ Kajwang. This is a current question, because Nairobi rivers is a currency, an important and a priority for this government and for the president. Mr. Speaker, as you may be aware, the president recently launched a groundbreaking and ambitious climate resilience service program called Climate Works, aimed at ecological restoration of our urban rivers, mainly and starting with the Nairobi rivers, while we still maintain public infrastructure, housing through labor-intensive and sustainable public works. So, the Speaker, I will have another day to talk about this climate works. It contains a lot. It's about Nairobi River regeneration, restoration, the pavements, the riparian area, how the labor intensive in terms of the settlements, making sure that some roads are done, lightening is done. So it's a huge program of the government under the able leadership of the president. So the initial phase of this climate works started yesterday, Mr. Speaker, here in Nairobi County, along the Nairobi River. In its first phase, 20,000 young people of Nairobi from 42 villages have been onboarded. The first 10,000 cohort started work yesterday. Speaker, building on this foundation, we will extend the program to 4 other major cities, Kisumu, Mombasa, Eldoret, and Nakuru in the next few months. And another additional 40,000 youth will be engaged, with the 10,000 of them allocated in other areas of Nairobi starting early November. In December, Mr. Speaker, because of equity, this climate works will be rolled out across all the remaining 47 counties, embodying close to about 139,909 young people to ensure full national participation and impact. Honorable Speaker, my ministry is implementing other initiatives to deal with the pollution issues in our main urban rivers. The National Environmental Management Authority initiated such a program called Urban Rivers Regeneration Program 2019 to 2024 for restoration and sustainable management of rivers within urban areas such as Nairobi, Kisumu, Eldoret, Nakuru, which face very serious and critical environmental challenges due to pollution, encroachment, and misuse. The following, Mr. Speaker, have been identified as the root causes of pollution in Nairobi. And many people, many leaders, many ministers shied away, but I will not shy away. I will not. And I want Honorable TJ to listen to me. The informal settlements, the people you represent, their percentage in terms of polluting. The story in town is the informal settlements are polluting Nairobi River. That's a fallacy. It's less than 1%. They even don't have garbage. They have nothing to throw. What they eat is very little. The garbage comes from the middle class. The biggest polluters of Nairobi River, and they must listen to me, and Ngomma has mapped out 145 industries, factories, slaughterhouses, apartments, who discharge their affluent to Nairobi River. We have, and I have directed, the DG Ngomma is sitting here. The laws that this House has passed, he must enforce it. He has no choice. Mamo must enforce. He either enforce or he leaves the job. You either shape in or shape out. So he has written restoration orders last week. So industries are the ones who are polluting Nairobi River. Number two, the greatest polluters, and the president has spoken to them, is Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company. It is Athi Water and Sewerage Company. The president has spoken to the two CEOs. Their manholes discharge raw sewage into Nairobi River. In fact, we don't have a river, we have a sewage. The third and largest group that destroy Nairobi River are the dam sites.
Welcome to QNet's world of new beginnings, where every sunrise is a promise of our commitment to you, your health, your dreams, your planet, and your community.
There are thousands of dam sites. On Sunday, trucks were in Mukuru kwa Jenga, trucks carrying garbage, discharging on the river. And I have told the governor of Nairobi, he must remove dam sites along Nairobi River. And we are going to call to order the companies that he has contracted who carry garbage and the private ones that come to our homes, even including members of parliament. We will sit with them. Mr. Speaker, the biggest problem in our country in terms of environmental challenge is we devolved it. Waste management is devolved. No, pollution is devolved. Zoning is devolved. No county today in our country can tell you we have this dam site. I've seen trucks, Mr. Speaker, as you drive behind them, the garbage is falling. We will introduce very strict measures. So dam sites is another pollution. Solid waste goes into the river, Mr. Speaker. Informal settlement, very little. If you allow me, Mr. Speaker, just to make a joke, the guy who is in the informal settlement, he cleans his plates, even doesn't need to wash it. The food he has is very little. So what is he going to throw away? The people who throw garbage, who have huge garbage, is the middle class and the industries. And then they blame informal settlements. Mr. Speaker, the other group is those who build or encroach on the riparian part of. When I saw the question from Honorable Gachiagua, I was very happy, because it will give me an opportunity to address from the floor of this house. These 100, I have written to KEPSHA and I have written to Kenya Association of Manufacturers. With all these big companies, Mr. Speaker, big companies are dumping their waste, their effluent. The law allows them, MCA law allows them that they must provide how their effluent is discharged. Let me accept it. Somebody somewhere failed. Because of corruption, because of greed, nobody wanted to protect the environment. Ngomma had the teeth. This DG has transferred a number of people. But they got to big people and they were being returned. All the Ngomma officials in the city are transferred, all of them, including the county director, who had very powerful connections. Michuki, I read his notes. The late Michuki, he had a good vision. Mzee Moi, when he started umomonyoko wa udongo, people used to laugh at him. If we could have picked from where he left, today Kenya, our forest cover, which is 10.3%, could have been 35%. The Speaker, Ethiopia, our neighbor, has done 36 billion tree growing in 10 years. So far, Mr. Speaker, we have done 451 million. Every minister has a county. And I am ready to work with every member here to give you the seedlings, to work with KEFRI and KFS. Mr. Speaker, where you come from, you have seen what UNHCR, Mr. Speaker, and I want you to support me, is a global UN entity to take care of the interests of refugees. They must provide an alternative energy source. They have cut all the trees over the years. I have told the UNHCR country director, it will not be business as usual. I will go with you to the dam. And I told them I have the backing of all the members of parliament from that area. They're even killing elephants. They're killing giraffes and sell them. Together, all of us must protect. So, Honorable TJ, I have told you who is polluting, and we will deal with them. What are we doing about it? We are removing all dam sites and structures along the riparian land. Honorable TJ, help us on this Nairobi River regeneration. We lost 42 people during the floods. We are not ready to lose any other life. We are not ready. The Madara River, the Ngong River, Honorable Member for Madare, lost a lot of people. We must bite the bullet. The president is ready. The government is ready. We are committed. Kenya is a capital of UNEP. We have a green constitution. We must have Nairobi River like the Thames River. At one time, the Thames River was a sludge. Today, the Thames River is a great transport hub in London. In addition to this intervention, Nairobi River Commission was established by His Excellency. The story of it, I think the Honorable Member has my answer. He asked a second question to outline the number of facilities along the Nairobi River that discharge affluent. I think I've answered. NEMA has conducted inspection to identify the illegal discharging along the riparian. Out of the 145 facilities, which we have mapped, 101 facilities have been listed by NEMA as having compliance issues because they don't have the required discharge according to the law. I have attached the list. I have nothing to hide. Yes. Even the banks, I have searched with the banks, they have a sustainability obligation, KCB, equity. If they are giving credit to a company, to a factory that is destroying the environment, even that sustainability of that company will be in question. So about 101. We have slaughterhouses who are discharging raw affluent to Nairobi River. And NEMA will undertake compliance evaluation through inspection. Question 3, Mr. Speaker, was Honorable TJ has asked our indulgence to state the measures that we have put in place. And I think I've already put it. But let me come to what are we doing about pollution control and waste water management. The Speaker, groups and those who run clubs, some of them are running clubs under a tent, like in Kitengela. The music that they play can even disturb a family 5 kilometers. Even our citizens, when they are celebrating a graduation or a birthday, they must comply with the law. They must. You can't bring all your friends because your son is graduating and then you play music the whole night. Some people have sick people. Some have young children. Some people are tired, they want to sleep early. So, Speaker, I am a victim. This weekend in my own estate. But because I didn't want to be accused of using my powers, I wrote a small note to the chairman of our estate and I told him, this is against the law. Please, by 10 o'clock, reduce noise pollution. NEMA partnered. NEMA has the powers. They have a police, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's something this House has given us under regulation. It's called Extended Producer Responsibility Enforcement. That if, for example, a bottle of Coca-Cola or a packet of Brookside is found along Nairobi River, that company, under extended producer responsibility, they must come and clean that river. NEMA must issue that restoration order. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, during the finance bill, one of the biggest multinational companies was against the eco levy. Why was that company against the eco levy? Because their franchise in Kenya, when their packets or their bottles are found along Nairobi River and NEMA uses the extended producer responsibility, that responsibility goes to the owner of the brand, who is a multinational. And they came, I was watching, they come before the finance committee. They don't want to take responsibility. So, Mr. Speaker, when the restoration support bill come next month or next year, that will be used to protect the environment, our ecosystem, I really want to ask colleagues here to support that bill and to make it even more punitive. Honorable Speaker, I think on noise pollution, it's becoming a very, very serious issue. So restoration order, sustainable waste management, the law is there of 2022. This House has enacted it. It aims to promote a circular economy in waste management, such as segregation of waste at source. In your homes, in the next few months, I will gazette the coded, where in your homes you must have a waste bin for the waste, for the wet waste, for the organic, and for the dry. The vehicles that will carry must carry separately. And when they take it to Dandora dam site, there must be different areas for different waste. For the dry one, the young people can use it for recycling. For the organic, can be used even for manure. Our public transport system must have waste bins, Mr. Speaker. That when, if you eat a banana, you don't throw it from the window. So public transport owners must provide. And so, Mr. Speaker, all these, we will enforce the noise pollution. We will enforce those who are dumping effluent to Nairobi River. When we deal with them, please don't call me. Because you will call me, it is my friend, it is somebody who supported me. Let us, all of us together, and I really want to indulge this house. I really want to indulge the leadership of Kenya is sitting here. Please, let us be remembered for conserving our environment. Let us be remembered for the fourth preamble of our Constitution that says we must protect, preserve the environment for the current generation and the future generations. The framers of the Honorable Speaker was part of the constitution making. The framers of our constitution, I had a chat with the judges of the Environment and Land Courts. They totally agree with me. They said, up to the Chief Justice, let us, all of us, citizens, make sure. But Nairobi members of parliament, majority are sitting here. My final shot. Please, help me and the president and the multi-agency team. There was a question why, I think, Honorable, why KDF? I think that's the questions that, that's the question that you want to deal with me when I appear before the Environment Committee. And I was ready tomorrow, but I am told tomorrow members have other important business. Mine is not important anymore. So they have given me a date of 15th. And as a ranking member, Mr. Speaker, this one is very important. So you better go do it. I have no vote, but it is important. So tomorrow, Honorable TJ, I got a letter from the committee. We meet on the 15th. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I'm sure that the House is seriously excited that we have a new sheriff on environmental matters in town. And I wish I was not on the chair and I was on the other side when you were talking about the UNHCR and what needs to be done. But in any case, I know me and you come from the same county, so we'll talk about it. It's a serious work, and you're cut for the job, and you're doing a fantastic job. Now, the honorable members, Martin Owino, followed by Anthony Oluoch. Order. No, you will get your shot. You will get your shot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
TJ, wait. You will take the final shot, and the minister will. That's the tradition right now, which is set in here. You ask, and then you also give the last question, so that the minister can. Yeah, Honorable Owino.
Thank you so much,
followed
Mr.
by
Speaker.
the Honorable Anthony Oluoch. Then I'll go to the ladies.
Yes, Duale, congratulations. We know people miss you, but some people miss you more, especially for us who you mentored in first term. I just want to ask for the small rural urban areas, like in Ndewa, who are struggling right now with how to deal with this pollution and also mismanagement of waste. So my question is,
Right now we are reactive because of missteps when things were being done. Is there any, the CS, is there any plan for prevention of these messes? For example, working together with the Ministry of Planning for proper town planning, for these upcoming urban areas like Ndewa. And are you also going to reach out to our youth? Because we also need this engagement of youth which you have created. So don't just stop at the county level, but are you also going to reach and work with the constituencies so that they can help in managing the environment? Thank you.
Yeah, the Honorable Watch. Let it be a question. I don't make it very long.
Okay, thank you very much. And CS, allow me to also thank you and for the very seamless transition. It appears as if you are actually fit for the environment as opposed to the previous one. I come from a neighboring constituency from my friend Honorable TJ Kajwang. Let me begin by the pollution or the polluters that you have indicated, and you very correctly said that the informal settlements hardly do the majority of the pollution. In one of my constituency wards called Mlango Kubwa around Mau Mau Road, if you go there, a new dumping site has now started for the last 1 year. And if you look at some of what is being dumped, the menu does not look like some of the constituents who voted for me. You find macaroni remains, pishori papers. I mean, you find a lot of polythene paper of things that ordinarily I know for a fact that are not consumed on a daily basis by my constituents. But that is besides. The main point that I wanted to make to the CS is in relations to the Madare River, the demolitions that took place, and you correctly said that majority of the people affected came from my constituency and Ruaraka constituency. The people in my constituency are still smarting from the demolitions and the removals that took place in that particular place. I am very happy, and I'm sure TJ is, that Nairobi River Commission is coming to your ministry. That you have indicated you will address on the 15th, and I would be happy to appear alongside TJ. The main question that I wanted to ask you is in relation to slaughterhouses, and you indicated that slaughterhouses are one of the main causes of pollution. In Madare, I have the Kiamaikol community, where the mainstay of business for the Somali community is slaughter. Your predecessor intervened when Ngomma people targeted the Somali community in my constituency for harassment when they consistently were in compliance with the standards that were being made. To date, they still continue to be harassed. They still continue to be threatened with the closure of their slaughterhouses. And I want to invite you, CS, that you take the opportunity to come to my constituency, in particular to Kiamaikol Ward, because then you will have a live interaction of, do the slaughterhouses, all of them, contribute into pollution of the rivers, or is there an element of corruption and high-handedness from the Ngomma people because of business competition? You will also be able to see yourself the Nairobi River that passes there and get the participation of the local people on how best we can be able to preserve two things: the businesses that must continue of the Kiamaikol people and the Nairobi River that we must protect. Thank you. CS.
The Honorable Beatrice Elachi, followed by the Honorable Lomanyo, and I'll come to all of you. The Minister, the CS will take a few questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to really thank the CS, who is one of the majority leaders that we've had in this country, and we will remember for many years his consistency when he means something, and I believe this is what he means in the Ministry of Environment. Mr. Speaker, mine is to just say two things. I appreciate, as he says, that we are now going to deal with Nairobi Water and also with Athi. And for me, the issue here is now the drainages and the sewers within the informal settlements, where you find they're the ones after, let's say, for example, when it rains, definitely they will drain to Nairobi River. How can we deal with that? And how can we bring in new sewer lines where there are no sewer lines? If that can really help us. But more importantly also, how can we have a program in schools where children in informal settlements can learn also how to dispose garbage, because they'll be able to assist their parents in terms of separation of garbage and all that. And lastly, is there a way we can have a program with the Turkish government, I think, so that we can have olive oil trees, which we know you can plant anywhere, whether it's in a dry land, it will grow, so that we have those seedlings and help now for those who are in areas where they are semi-arid or really arid to plant those trees, and it will help us even with oil. Thank you.
Honorable Omanya, you can ask your question also.
Oh, I thought I was next, Mr. Speaker.
Oh.
Me?
But you're Omanya, I thought.
Yes.
Yeah, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Buena CS, thank you so much for your extensively well-elaborated answers. But in Busia, we have, it's like two things happen at a go. Whenever it rains, it is too much that the overflow happens and the riverbanks burst, especially in Budalangi, and most of the habitats have to run away for safety all the time whenever it is raining. So while we are thinking of planting trees, other areas that are dry to attract rains, we have too much sometimes. And my question is, what is your plan to raise either something that can obstruct whenever the overflow happens in Budalangi, because this should stop. It has been there since I was not born. Then I'm now this age, the same story of floods affecting our people. And then now when you go to Teso North, there is a hard pan. I tried to dig boreholes. I couldn't go beyond. And that the few areas that have boreholes, they are seasonal. So there is a problem in that area in Teso North. I'm asking, is there a way we can have piped water to go across the sub-county, or a dam that can feed all the area, because that area, women are raped at night and girls going across the other county in Ngomma to queue for 6 to 8 hours. I meet men whenever I'm doing my own crisscrossing, and they make it as a joke and say, at night you wake up, you are touching left and right, your wife is not there. She has gone to look for this important basic need, water. So we can save a lot. When you come to Budalangi, food insecurity is now high. Poverty levels have gone too high as well. And no one anywhere in the world is likes to be put or called as poor. There are situations that happens and they find themselves like that. Now that you have been sounding so knowledgeable, I am begging, as the women representative there, that we put it pragmatically so that it doesn't just look very well done theoretically.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
The Honorable Murugara, and then Cherorot, and then the Honorable Kajuang, and the rest of you will take a serious bite on the next question.
Thank you.
There's another question also which is very similar to this, and you can ask anything on environment, because the minister is there for the Minister for Environment. So
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And he will take note of all these things, and he'll answer them. Whatever he can't answer them, he'll answer them the next day.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So, Speaker, allow me also to voice my delight this afternoon to have our former Leader of Majority being with us here. Even when he became a ranking member, I remember we used to do many, many long hours in the House And as you can witness, we are still doing it with vigor. So we are carrying on, we are holding fort in respect of the House. Mr. Speaker, allow me to ask him regarding the pollution that Honorable T.J. Kajuan has actually asked about. We know very well Nairobi River is murky. In fact, as we live within the precincts of Nairobi, you cannot, unless where it is absolutely necessary, you cannot drink that water. But as the river goes down, it gets into Machakos and then into Makweli. And residents there actually use that water when it is not treated. It's a very big health hazard. What measures is the government putting in place to ensure that even as we clean the river here in Nairobi, the water is also treated so that the health and safety measures that would apply in Machakos and Makweli are applicable and those people are safe? Similarly, but in the contrast, the Tana River has very clean water. As it traverses the Raka, we actually use that water without any treatment, and hardly, seldomly, can it be said that it's a health hazard. And I know you do it in Garissa, because I come to Garissa quite often, and I see as it flows under the bridge. But as we speak today, there is a very serious threat to that river because of the water towers, which are on Mount Kenya, Nyambene Regis, and those ones. The tributaries that drain into Tana River are now dry, and therefore the river has very little water. When you combine that with harvesting or harnessing of electricity, then you have a dry river as it meanders past Garissa into the Indian Ocean. What measures is the government putting in place to ensure that, first and foremost, we save the water towers of Mount Kenya and Nyambene Regis? Number two, that we plant trees that are actually friendly to the riverine condition, special trees that will help in preserving water along the Tana River and its tributaries.
Honorable Cherarot, be very brief.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I want to tell the CS that he is equal to the task. And for him to succeed also, he has to make sure that he cuts across the Ministry of Water and Agriculture, because they are interconnected. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the challenge we have in our country is the air pollution, and also the challenge we have is that we have to shop wisely. Because the other day, Mr. Speaker, I was from Nakuru, and I was following another car. And the guy in front of me, the users of that car, threw some waste. I think they were eating some food, and then they threw it on the road. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the CS, what are the measures that you are going to put in place to make sure that Kenyans behave wisely and they handle their environment well? Another thing that I want to ask the CS is that what plans do you have? Because you find that in our country, most of the rivers have been neglected. And I want to ask him, what measures is he putting in place to make sure that Kenyans themselves own it and participate, especially by taking care of their environment? Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I want also to say that I'll ask what also measures is he going to make sure that he put in place so that we employ the use of recycle, because there is a problem, reuse and recycle, so that we can be able to manage well our waste, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable TJ, so that the Minister, we can dispose of that question. We'll go to the next question and you'll take a bite of that.
Mr. Speaker, many members have...
You will have an opportunity on the next one. The Minister has taken already too many members. Order. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, many members have complimented, congratulated, and expressed a lot of faith in the cabinet secretary, so I wouldn't go there. I will just take it where it belongs. But I have to give him worth the distinction that he has in relevance. I think he has attended to this question with a lot of relevance. But so that these questions are not shrouded, I have a lot of respect for members, but they have asked a lot of carry-through questions, which may lose the gist of the question that this minister came here to respond to. I want to pick only 4 aspects of it very quickly, so that the minister is brought back to the questions which are direct to this issue. In question Roman 3 says, what measures are there to address the discharge of effluent into rivers and water sources in the country? And the minister has responded, well so, that one of the things that they have in place is this animal called Nairobi River Commission. I want to take that. Now, Mr. Speaker, the minister aware, of course, I'm sure he is, being a ranking member of this House, who knows legislation making and so on. He knows of Gazette Notice, special issue number 258 of 2nd of December 2022, which created this Nairobi Rivers Commission. And in this notice, the Gazette especially is 14891, which quotes the Climate Change Act and quotes the Environmental Management and Coordination Act. Of course, the issue of the rivers is in the Act of Environmental Management Act. In fact, at that time, the Climate Change Act, you read it all, there is no function at all that is given to Nairobi Rivers Commission. And yet, that is the act upon which this is predicated. But worse, over the page, it is signed by a man that I'm coming to respect, called Honorable the President, William Samoei Ruto. Now, under that act, it is this CS who has the authority to appoint a commission, not the president at all, and it is not delegated function. And number 2, this Gazette Notice must be laid before this House under delegated powers and jurisdiction of this House. And nobody has the power to make law other than this House. I'm sure the minister knows this. And so they create a commission, and yet it is this commission which is driving the policy of cleaning the Nairobi River. I am going to meet him on 15th, but in that 15th, I've asked him to consider disbanding this commission and creating it afresh in a legislative process that is viable. But in this case, he would have to respond and say, if in this question I have asked, that if this commission were to drive this process, that it is dead as dodo, ab initio. Number 2, I like what the minister is saying about producer responsibility. In other words, if it is breweries, or if it is sewerage, Nairobi sewerage, or Athi sewerage, they have a responsibility on these river courses. I like that. And is the minister considering creating a more substantive enforcement powers under these commissions or the companies that are responsible? For example, to insist that their balance sheets, there must be an account in which some portion of money in what they make, whether profits or not, is dedicated to the cleaning up of these river courses, because of that responsibility which the minister is talking about. The last one is, you see, Honorable Oluoch is on the upper course than me, so he gets polluted before I get polluted in that course as it goes down the road. But you see, there's a neglect of Nairobi River. And so even when you say about dumping, there must be a consistent way of opening up that river course by dredging, and that is not very little money. Dredging the course to keep it open so that the substances as they pass through, including medical affluents, Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of things that Oluoch and I, we see in that river coming from the myriads of clinics. There are more clinics than there are people. I don't know whom they are treating, but there is more clinics than there are people. And all that effluence is coming down the river. So dredging, and then people from a place that I have a lot of respect for have this affinity of land. When they see land, their body changes. So what they do is that they dump sand. They dump quarry sand on the coast of the river so that as much as it is getting constricted,
TJ,
Mr. Speaker, this is very important.
The chair has given you an inordinately long leeway for you to make your case, but don't turn this into a very long speech.
I'm most obliged. I'm most obliged. And you know, you and I are now the remaining ranking members in this House. So, Mr. Speaker, but the point is this, that these people are dumping quarry sand in packets so that the river creates some more land. This is what we learn, him and I. These people from those places, they have an affinity for land. So Mr. Speaker, the CS must know how to dredge this river course and remove all those this dump material so that the river gets back to its course wide and sure, and as it goes down, the water becomes a little loose and more liquid, so that there is a velocity that it flows down the river. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
CS, one serious takeaway, just to add on, is that if I got him right, he's saying, what regulatory? Is it going to be a new piece of legislation that's going to give you more teeth than you've had before for you to be able to perform all this raft of very ambitious things, or you can do it through like regulations? Is that right, Mr.? Oh, okay, fair enough.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and you are a ranking member. Maybe TJ follows you, and the Honorable Kamket has not had, because he's not very far from Honorable TJ, but the senior senior ranking member is the Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this House, and Honorable TJ, and you know, the laws are there. The problem in our country is enforcement.
Fair enough.
And I'm going to deal with enforcement. And the man in charge of enforcement, whether it is noise pollution, whether it's waste management, whether it is environmental degradation, Nairobi River, dam sites, if all of us, the leadership, we work together, I want to assure you that the people who have been given the mandate, why does Ngomma has police officers and other agencies don't have? It's because how important environment is. So Honorable TJ, I agree with you in creating the Nairobi River legal notice 14891, there are issues. But we are very lucky. I don't want to be accused, but now we have an Attorney General, one of the most brilliant women, I think, in Kenya. I will sit with her when the executive order is signed. Nairobi River comes to my ministry. We will sit with her. We want to work within a legal framework. Secondly, all that you're asking about Nairobi River, the 30-meter riparian size. We will drench Nairobi River. We will build embankments so the river comes back to its course and carry the water. But what I will do, because that presentation was done to His Excellency the President on Monday by our team, I will look for a day. I invite the Nairobi leaders And we will show you the plan we have. I will not succeed in this ministry without the leaders, without the members of parliament. Honorable Oluoch, Honorable TJ, Honorable Beatrice Alachi, Honorable KJ, I need your support. But I want to assure through the Speaker, Nairobi River will not be the same again. And this is not me saying, it's President William Ruto and the Commander-in-Chief who is saying he has only given me delegated authority. But it's him who said it on Monday, and we have a serious, and that's why we have started with Nairobi River. So we'll fix that. And I agree. You know, the members now have put me in many, many other issues. Let me speak to my good sister from Busia. The flooding control, please, and we have done research, work with KFS and KEFRI, plant more bamboo trees. Bamboo trees have become successful in the control of floodings. We will provide with you, we will go there, let us plant as many bamboo trees as possible. And you will count on me, that's success. The other issue which government did was, it's the same problem we are facing with Tana River when it floods. As we go, get more money, but I think that we can do it because it's an intervention also for restoration of the ecosystem. If you mix it with the indigenous tree species, our honorable women rep, and even planting in the riparian areas, I can tell you that is a quick solution we can start with. On the challenge, Mr. Speaker, on Tana River by the Honorable Mulugara, I've missed you. There are times, Mr. Speaker, during our days, it was difficult, if you allow me, during our days it was difficult to impeach a deputy president. And the reason was we had the numbers. We had 145. And you know, if you have 117, you survive. So as we were aligned to William Ruto, we had 145, and Murugara was our lead counsel. So the problem of the challenge of siltation in Tana River is that we need to protect the water catchment areas through planting the right species. Tell the people not to plant eucalyptus. Eucalyptus trees will finish. Secondly, there are too many horticulture and farming, and people are diverting the water at the top of the Abadeas and the other areas. So by the time it's coming to Garissa, Tharaka, Tana River, it meanders and it migrates like the nomads. So even farmers, palms, this month is here, the next month it's in a dry area. And I agree with you, but let's help. Honorable Wino, very good point. I have talked to Ngomma. We'll work with the county. We must ensure working with the Department of Physical Planning, and we'll come up with a holistic land use for even our rural part. But the Ngomma person on the ground must...
Honorable Oluoch, you are supposed to be listening to the minister because he's answering the things you asked. Proceed, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Honorable Wino, your point is very valid. I will prepare it conclusively, but we will deal with it. There was the issue of the solid waste management. The problem I have, and let me be very frank to the House, most of the challenges we are facing with waste management, noise pollution, environmental issues, all these are devolved. All these are devolved. And nobody in the counties wants to take care. I mean, we must face it. We must face it. And as I talk to you, let me start with Nairobi. And the president has really helped the county government of Nairobi. We will help him in terms of resources because we will not deal with Nairobi River if we don't fix the old debilitated sewer system in Nairobi. So the president has committed that he will first fix the sewer. Because the sewer line is in the river. Even when we want to drench, we will meet the sewer lines. But yesterday, the president has committed, and please, when it comes to the House, the budget, support it. Because we want to fix that sewer line and maintain it properly.
Yeah, I think...
we shall use what you call the expanded responsibility. Honorable TJ, I can tell you, today I want to forgive them. But if I give you the names of the corporations that pollute Nairobi River with their products, some of them, they make billions of profits. So when we bring a restoration fee order that will be domiciled in Ngomma, that will be only used, to not go to the National Treasury to go and use it to pay debt. It will only be used, and you must amend that, you are good in amendments. It will only be used for environmental restoration and protection. Please support me. You saw it on the newspapers, because we must protect, even as honorable member from Lamu, we must even protect the marine ecosystem. It's very, very important to our country, Mr. Speaker. And you know Lamu very well. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, Honorable Oluoch, you are a very good man, but please, I am not a Somali minister. I am a Kenyan minister. And that is the oath I took. But you are better, at least you have called me Somali. Some called me warrior, which is very, very demeaning. It is very demeaning. It's better you call me Somali, but not warrior. Warrior is very demeaning. It is a shame. Those people of mine, they have no choice. There are 15 of them who have not complied, the slaughterhouses. 2 have complied. They will not be closed because of competition. And I agree with you. I know who wants to close them. They employ a lot of people. But what I want you to do, the Korean government has given Ngomma some facility to deal with affluent, not to come to Nairobi River. I want us, we sit with us in my office with you and Ngomma, and we agree on how we help them. Them do the business, and then they don't discharge their affluent to the river. So that I protect your votes, but I protect the environment. You know, and tell them what Didi said. I think, Speaker, Speaker, I have finished. Yes. We are, the only good thing Honorable Bichi said was, yes, we are working with the Kenya Curriculum Department to mainstream waste management into our school curriculum. We have already written to them so that our children, we teach our kids about waste disposal and waste sustainability. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I have tried.
Yeah, you've done ably, yes, and very well answered that question. Now we're going to the last question. The
last one, I think, Mr. Speaker, if you allow me, is on saving our water towers. I think somebody asked, I think it was Honorable Murugara. We are doing fencing, we are doing restoration, we're involving the communities, and we are doing what is called Adapt a Forest Initiative. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Then the last question, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Tigania. Order, honorable members, you will get a bite now. So wait until the question is asked. They're pretty much similar, and I know I've noticed the honorable member for Lamu, the honorable member for Kwanza, the honorable Kamket, all of you will get an opportunity to also weigh in on this. So just relax, hold your horses. Proceed, Honorable Mutunga, and ask the question.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to thank Honorable Doyle for very ably answering the questions so far. And since I did not get an opportunity to ask him a question on the first questions that he has answered. If you can allow me, I will first of all start with that, then I ask my question. Allow? I will ask one question.
No. Ask the question. Ask the question first.
Okay, Honorable Speaker.
In the follow-up question, then you can ask.
My question, Honorable Speaker, is
the rules are very, the tradition, yes.
On climate financing. I would like the Minister to explain the structure of climate financing in Kenya while outlining the key actors and the benefits gained through climate financing to fight issues arising from climate change. In other words, to address the issues arising through climate change.
Yes, proceed.
The second question is to elaborate on how carbon credits are quantified and remunerated accordingly in the country and mechanisms in place to ensure that farmers who plant trees qualify for carbon credits.
Very good.
Thank you.
Ministers, yes.
Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for Dr. Mutunga, very professional. When I saw his question, is what I grappled with during my vetting. I had to go and read on carbon credits, what it means. It's a very complicated thing. But Mr. Speaker, I wish to know that Kenya's climate financing structure comprises of a mixed international, national, and private sector financial flows, which are aimed at supporting our country's climate change, both in terms of mitigation and in terms of adaptation efforts. Because those climate financing deal with two. How do we deal with climate crisis? One is mitigation, the other one is adaptation. And this involves a multi-stakeholder framework. It involves integrated both public and private sector actors. It involves both bilateral and multilateral donors. It involves domestic institutions to channel funds towards addressing climate-related issues. And, Mr. Speaker, the structure of climate finance has key actors. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, allow me to highlight on who are these key actors in climate finance and what are their roles. The first actor is the National Treasury. And the primary duty of the National Treasury is the National Treasury is the primary custodian of all matters of climate finance and responsible implementation of our climate finance policy. So whatever we do with our climate finance framework, number two, the National Treasury role is overall mobilization of climate funds, and they lead. When we go to COP29 in November, they will be the lead people in terms of climate finance negotiation under the United Nations framework for Convention on Climate Change, known as UNFCCC. The other function of the National Treasury is to establish a dedicated climate finance and green economy unit, which they did in 2016, and that unit coordinates, facilitates activities related to climate finance. Also, they are the current implementers in all our counties, I think even in Garissa and in Meru, where you come from. They are the implementers of a fund called Financing Locally Led Climate Action, known as FLOCA program. It's mainly run from the National Treasury, but the main stakeholders are county governments. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the National Treasury as an actor is the Kenya National Designated, the DNA, for Green Climate Fund. The DNA is in my ministry. It is domiciled in Ngomma. That's where the register is for carbon market, but in terms of Green Climate Fund, the National Treasury holds the pen. The next group is the National Climate Change Council, ACTA. This is chaired by the President, and myself as the Minister for Environment is the Secretary. We have the Minister for Energy, we have somebody from the academia, we have somebody from the civil society, we have somebody from the marginalized communities, we have somebody representing the youth, and you passed it in the Climate Act Amendment 2 months ago, this House. I am at the stage of establishing that council. So what does this council do as an actor? This council's mandate is to provide legislative and policy direction. So whatever that comes to the House, whether it's a policy or legislative, it emanates. They do supervision, they do oversight, they do guidance on climate change across all levels of government, including even the climate finance mechanism that I've just talked about. It's called the Climate Change Fund. The third actor is the Interministerial Committee on Climate Finance, which was established in 2015 to provide leadership. Their function is to provide leadership on the climate finance activities in Kenya, including the GCF. The Interministerial Committee on Climate Finance is composed of senior technical officers handling climate change, climate finance matters from various ministries, from various departments, from various agencies, and even from the Council of Governors. The fourth actor is my ministry, Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry. What do? We coordinate climate change actions in the country, and we are the focal point for this UNFCCC. We chair this Interministerial Committee on Climate Finance, and we operationalize the entity for Global Environmental Facility, which supports a number of our programs. The fifth actor is NEMA. What does NEMA do? As I said earlier, NEMA is the designated national authority for carbon markets in Kenya. The register is there. They do assessment when there is a carbon market project in your constituency. They analyze, they look at the law, and Mr. Speaker, I want to thank this House. The regulations for carbon market was passed last week, and for the first time, if, for example, there is a carbon offset project in Dr. Mutunga or the Deputy Speaker's, the Speaker's constituency, the community by law will get 40% of the proceeds. And the project will not continue until something called Community Development Agreement is signed. Before, nobody was paying. There were many companies who were getting billions from even our soil carbon, and they were not paying anything. So NEMA is now mandated as a focal point. They co-chair the interministerial, and they do the implementing entity for the adaptation fund, and the direct access entity. Then we have the line ministries and state departments, and then we have the line ministries they must mainstream climate action in planning and budgeting. Then we have the county governments, the establishment of the county climate change funds. Many funds is going to our counties, and I think the Senate has an obligation to make sure that they also audit those funds. In our counties, the mainstreaming of climate action in the counties planning and budgeting process. I think the two final actors is the development partners. What do development partners do? They have the provision of the climate finance and technical assistance. They include the multilateral, the World Bank, the African Development Bank. We have the bilateral actors, the European Union, Danida, USAID, CEDA, AFD, many of them JICA. Then lastly, we have the private sector. And what is their role as an actor in the climate financing? Their investment in low carbon climate resilient in terms of technologies and in terms of action. Kenya Commercial Bank, for example, is accredited by the Global Climate Fund. Equity Bank, Cooperative Bank, they have been nominated for accreditation. Kenya Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA, and Kenya Association of Manufacturers are members of the Interministerial Technical Committee. Speaker, the second, he asked what is the benefits of financing received? Honorable Speaker, Kenya is mobilizing an average of 300 billion every year on climate finance and climate-related investment from both the public and the private sector. Some of the notable climate funding and projects in Kenya include the IMF Resilient Sustainability Facility of $544 million, the FLOCA program, which I said it is domiciled mainly in our counties, of $295 US, the Adaptation Fund of $10 million US, the Kenya Smart Agriculture Project, $250 million US, and the Climate Investment Fund, USD 70 million. The climate finance, Mr. Speaker, received by Kenya brings several significant benefits that contribute to the country's effort to mitigate and to adapt to the impacts of climate change. These benefits are many and they span across environmental, social, economic dimensions. They enhance resilience, they support sustainability, and they contribute to our development. Honorable Speaker, allow me to bring to the attention of the House that as a country, we have a significant climate financing gap, which hinders our ability to fully implement our climate goals, including those outlined in our country's national determined contribution. The full implementation of NDC requires a country to mobilize USD 62 billion. Despite the influx of international and domestic funding, the available financial resources fall short of estimated needs for climate financing. But Mr. Speaker, there are about 4 regulations remaining on climate financing, carbon market, carbon, even the registry, which I'll bring to the House next week. And we should be through, God willingly, before COP29 in Baku. I really want to urge the Committee of Delegated Legislation. They have really helped me when I was in defense, and even here when I'm in environment. We argued our case, and last week they really supported the first regulations. Once we deal with the legal framework, Kenya will be ahead. Kenya will be ahead of many, many countries in Africa in terms of how prepared are we for carbon market. Speaker, the second question, which is the final one, was to elaborate how carbon credits are quantified and remunerated accordingly in the country and mechanism in place. Speaker, this is very technical, so I think Dr. Mutunga might be the only one who will understand. Some of the, like the NDA, what the NDA is, what carbon trading is, what carbon index is, who is qualified, what are the parameters. On the last question, Mr. Speaker, the member seeks our indulgence to elaborate how carbon credits are quantified and to state mechanism in place to ensure tree planting farmers qualify. There's a member who asked me last week if my car is old and is polluting, am I I told him, in fact, you are supposed to pay. Well, this carbon thing is like, for example, the big corporations in the West, like airlines, because they are polluting, they are the polluters. We are the victims. So we trade in. We plant trees, then they offset that with the pollution. So, Mr. Speaker, it's good to define simple terms what a carbon credit is. This is a unit of exchange that individuals and firms alike use to offset their greenhouse gas emissions. Farmers who plant trees can qualify for carbon projects by participating in what we call agroforestry or restoration initiatives, where carbon credits are generated based on the amount of carbon sequestered by the trees over time. Mr. Speaker, one important requirement for farmers to consider the trees planted for this specific purpose of sequestering carbon have to be on the land for a long time to ensure permanency on carbon sequestered. Allow me to elaborate the process involved. A baseline scenario is first established to estimate how much carbon could have been stored in the absence of the project. Farmers, this could mean assessing the current land use or the vegetation before tree planting. Then farmers plant trees which capture and store carbon, what they call the carbon sink as they grow. The amount of carbon is then monitored periodically based on a tree species, on growth rates or area covered. Once the carbon is verified, carbon credits are issued based on the amount of carbon dioxide absorbed. One carbon credit represents a sequestration of 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. So farmers are remunerated, or they are paid, based on the sale of these carbon credits in carbon markets. The price of carbon credits can vary depending on market demand and the type of the project. A project developer or a farmer who wishes to engage in a carbon project shall first apply to the DNA through the register domiciled in Ngomma for approval of the carbon project. The procedure for developing a carbon project are detailed in the Climate Change as Amended Act Carbon Markets Regulations, which was gazetted via Kenya Supplement, Kenya Gazette 105. So, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Member for Tigania constituency marks as the end of his question, and I was to respond, but allow me that I will take time, he's my good friend, and ask even my team to take him through. Once we finish with the legal framework, this carbon market is going to benefit a lot of our people. And we have made sure 40% if a carbon market project is brought to your constituency, 40% of the proceeds must go. And I'm happy in Wajir North, the Honorable Sane has written to me, and we will gazette the forest. The man in charge of forest is here. He will go with you, he will assess. It will be the first forest in northern Kenya. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now we will order honorable members. I'll ask the MP for Kwanza, then followed by the MP for Lamu East, followed by the Honorable Sane, and then the Honorable Kamket. All of you ask.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Take as little time as possible. Don't
I will
make
take
a very
little time.
Speech.
I've been sitting
in
here.
any case, the House is supposed to sit until 9 o'clock. So you still have 2 more hours if you want to debate on this.
Mr. Speaker, Sandy-san, thank you very much for the chance. I want to take this opportunity also to thank the CS. I think you are up to the task. I know you because we've worked together in this house. You are very detailed, and I think you are very exposed. I want to thank you, and please continue My question has been asked, but I think I want to make two comments, Mr. Speaker, which are very, very important. One, on this affluent and the drainage wastage, particularly in Nairobi. I had a chance to go to Israel, and I think page marking is not a problem. Mr. Speaker, I was impressed because this drainage system in Israel, and I was there, I was explained there's a system that actually trains the wastage, particularly solid wastage. Actually, it goes almost 6 kilometers away, and about 6 stages along the pipeline. And at the end of the day, at the end of the 6th stage, which is about 6 kilometers away, the water is very clean, and it's actually used for irrigation. So I think, Bwana CS, half the time, I don't want to say that you have to go to Israel, but if you have the time to get one of your officers to go there to benchmark on that, this sewage problem in Nairobi and urban areas will actually be solved. There's a system that actually cleans the water. At the end of it, you can't believe it, it's a clean water for irrigation. Secondly, I think on the wastage, on the afforestation.
MP for Kwanza.
Yes.
You have an opportunity to ask a supplementary question.
What? Can I just finish?
The opportunity is to ask a question.
Well,
but if you're going to make, you get a leeway, but don't make a long speech of all your experiences in Israel and everywhere. Proceed.
I will proceed. And I also, because I said my question was asked, I also want to find out whether there's any plan, because of afforestation, which is an issue, whether you have some plans, particularly on highway. And again, I want to say this, go to Denmark, you will see there's the government, I think, on the environmental, because I've got one of my family members there. I saw along the highway, they have planted a lot of trees. And therefore, I also want you to take time to be able to benchmark in Denmark and see along the way, because you have, I think, 6 meters from the main stage and there's nothing. You can plant trees there. I also want to see if you have also the time to be able to do that benchmarking in Denmark.
Fair enough.
Thank you, because my question was asked. I just want to
Okay,
share this experience with my former colleague.
Okay. The Honorable Member for
This
Lamu
man
East.
has no manners.
Lamu East, the Honorable Raphael Wanjala. You're not on the chair. Don't tell the Honorable MP for Kwanza to sit down or to rise up. Proceed, Honorable.
Asante Bwana Spika. Nami kunipa hii nafasi nipate kumuuliza waziri maswali yangu. Mwanzo nichukue nafasi hii kumpongeza waziri. Kusema la kweli hapa bunge tumekumisi. Tulikuwa sauti tunaisikia sana hapa. So sasa hii umekuja tumekumbuka ile sauti yako. Mimi ulipopata hii nafasi nilifikiri huyo mfugaji na mazingira ni vipi, lakini sasa hii nimeona umekuwa bingwa wa kuhifadhi mazingira. Ukizungumza inatoka rohoni kabisa, ukishughulikia mazingira inakufanya upende. So naona ushaingiliana uko vizuri na pongezi kwa hilo. Swali langu la kwanza ni, kuna wakati niuliza swali ya juu ya siu. Kuna kampuni inaitwa Zarara ilienda ikachimba kule gas, hawakupata, wakafunga, lakini kile kisima hakikufungwa vizuri. Kuna fumes zinatoka, moshi unatoka hapo, watu wakaogopa, na hiyo maeneo pia yamebadilika rangi, na kuna mtu yule alikuwa kilinda hapo alifariki. Sasa watu wameanza kuwa na wasiwasi. Nilipouliza swali hilo hapa bungeni nikajibiwa kwa maandishi. Wakati huo ni mabadiliko yalikuwa yametokea. So swali langu likawa halikujibika vizuri, nikasema nijibiwe tena, sijatosheka, lakini mambo ikapotelea hapo. Kwa hivyo naomba ile swali langu, kama leo mnaweza kunijibu sawa, kama hamwezi mhakikishe nimejibiwa, manake ile iliyozungumzwa haikuwa sawa, si vile kulivyo huko mashinani.
Fair enough.
Ya, swali la pili, waziri, nimekusikia ukisema okay, mambo ya hizi takataka iko kwa county. Ni kweli iko kwa county, lakini mimi hapa sina uwezo wa kwenda kumuuliza county, niko kwa bunge hili. Mimi nitakuuliza wewe. Kuna maeneo kama Lamu Mashariki, eneo ambalo Lamu Kenya nzima kwa kupanda miti tuko 42%, namba 2 Kenya nzima. Lakini utaona eneo bunge langu, eneo bunge la Lamu Mashariki, tuna vijiji 23. Tuna upande wa msitu na tuna upande wa bahari. Na watu wangu wanang'ang'ana kuhifadhi. Lakini hakuna mpangilio yoyote, hakuna alama yoyote ya kuonesha kutoka kwa national government au kwa county government kama kuna kitu inafanywa. Mnatupatia morali vipi? Naona waziri ukizungumza ukataja angalau upande wa marine, wa bahari. Na kuomba uliingize kwa fikra, kwa sababu hapa bunge nikikaa, waziri yoyote akija, hakuna mtu anataja Lamu Mashariki. Kwa hivyo wewe umeikumbuka Lamu Mashariki, naomba utufikirie, maana kule kwetu hakuna hata pahali birika imetengezwa ya kuweka takataka. Hizo takataka zote zinaikwa kwa bahari. Kwa hivyo nataka ulifikirie hilo, kama kuna mpangilio yote na sisi utufanyie. Asante. Au kama huko umefanywa uniambie ni gani, na mimi niko ground sana, sijaona pahali. Asante.
Mheshimiwa wa Wajir North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I ask my supplementary questions, I want to correct.
I thought you were going to ask in Kiswahili the way Ruwaida was. But proceed.
Unfortunately, I look forward to a day when the Somali language, which is being the language of many millions of Kenyans, will be an official language, and then I would have done better. Mr. Speaker, I want to correct two issues the minister pronounced himself on. One, I appreciate his generosity that he wants to gazette Bute Malawa Forest. This has been gazetted 4 years ago. All I requested him is to operationalize the 19,000 hectares of land generously given to Kenya Forest Service. So it is already gazetted. I wrote to you for its operationalization, Bwana CS. One other statement he made remarks in regard to one scientist around, an environmentalist. Speaking in front of you is equally an environmentalist on matters at hand, Mr. Speaker. So you should not think that there's only one environmentalist in the House. And going straight to the issue, the climate financing issue. Mr. Speaker, there is a paradox globally that climate financing is not purposed to stop climatic abuse, but rather the rich nations want to abuse the climate so that they become richer and the poor ones continue suffering. So all that they are trying to do under the concept of climate change is to cut out a balance between adaptation and mitigation. That's all they are doing about climate change, to strike a balance so that those who are endowed can at least give the wealth they have sinfully acquired, to use the right word, in abusing the environment, to the vulnerable ones, the poor third world states. That is what climate change in a layman way means, Mr. Speaker. And in so doing, the structure is as complex as climate change itself. It is hard to understand this issue of carbon credit. Hard, very complex. It is driven by the same selfish, rich abusers, Mr. Speaker. Now the issue. For us to come to the bottom of climate change financing, we know that the rangelands are the biggest sequester of carbon. It is a scientific concept. And where are the rangelands? Where you come from, Mr. Speaker? Where I come from, the northern Kenya, what we call Asals. This is the biggest sequester of carbon that is a nuisance to the ozone and climate change. What structures are there? What mechanisms are there? And the most affected, the most vulnerable to climate change is unfortunately, again, the pastoralists. The sequester, the vulnerable in equal measure. So how far is carbon financing established to make sure that those who are most affected and those who are to be the sequester of this bad element is at the core of it, is something I would wish to hear from the minister. Then, for us to structure climate financing, Mr. Speaker, there is a big data and knowledge gap. Data and knowledge gap. If you have big data and knowledge gap, it goes without saying that you can't come up with adaptation mechanisms appropriate to the risks. And consequently, what will arise? We will have a fragmented financing architecture too, that our climate financing will be fragmented. The architecture will not be smooth and well-oriented. So what are we doing about data? How authentic is our climate change data? How knowledgeable are pastoralists and those who are most affected? That is my first supplementary question, Mr. Speaker, and if you will allow me a bit of latitude to go into the first, because you stopped us, on issues of our environmental health concerning pollution on rivers, the Nairobi River. It is true, the Cabinet Secretary answered well on the matter, that maintaining a good standard of environmental health, it's a multi-sectoral, multi-pronged issue. It's not a one-off issue. It cuts across many ministries, many actors, and many livelihoods. But it is true what he said, it comes down to behavioral issue. We have informal settlements in Nairobi. How do we behave? The culture of disposing waste. But of concern to me, how is our sewerage system, is it being improved to make sure that effluents, raw effluents, human defecants do not go into our aquatic ecosystem, into our waters? And that tells me...
Honorable Sane, you've had a very long leeway. Ask one question now. You should be in the Committee on Environment and you should be giving all these ideas at the appropriate places.
Mr. Wanjala, the speaker addressed me and I am obliged to hear him. We don't have two speakers. My question in a nutshell, all that is happening in Nairobi is going downstream to downstream communities. Tana River, Indian Ocean. It's not only an impact on our terrestrial ecosystem. What are we doing on these effects on our aquatic ecosystem?
The minister will be at liberty to say that he was prepared for this question, or maybe give another day to answer some of these questions. They're very technical, and ample prior preparations is always important. Now I said Kamket, followed by Mgwen. You were supposed to have had. And Mutunga, you will get the final bite because you're the questioner. Order, Honorable Wanjala. Order. No, he's been here much earlier than you. And then the MP Oyula, Butula, and then Wanjala, you're the last. And then, of course, the questioner. And then be very brief.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be very brief. Mr. Speaker, while I want to appreciate the Cabinet Secretary for his very articulate replies to our questions, and I want to state, Honorable Speaker, that the Honorable Duale is a seasoned politician. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, in terms of seniority, in terms of loyalty, he has a proven record in serving with the Excellency of the President. And in fact, Honorable Speaker, in the current circumstances, if there is anyone who deserves, should our motion go through, to become the Deputy President of Kenya, is the Honorable Duale. And why not? I mean,
order, honorable members, order. Proceed.
And why not, Honorable Speaker? Because, you know, the Honorable Duale represents all pastoralists in this country. And the pastoralist community and population is not a small one. And somebody said, together with the Muslim population. Anyhow, Mr. Speaker, I have a particular question, and I'll need your guidance, Honorable Speaker, on this. Some time back, about 5 months ago, the women rep for Baringo, Honorable Jamatia, brought a petition to this assembly. And that petition was correctly directed to the Committee on Public Petitions on the matter of an imaginary forest called Mukutani. Mukutani is a place that lies between Baringo South and Tiati constituency. The information I have, Mr. Speaker, is that the ministry has been frustrating Parliament, particularly the Committee on Public Petitions, on this matter. I want to confirm to you, Mr. Speaker, that indeed there is no forest in Mukutani. What has happened is a gazettement of a particular area illegally for
the Honorable Kamket,
yes,
the Honorable Kamket,
yes.
You have brought an issue that is not on the order paper today.
I just want the Cabinet Secretary to answer this.
But you see, it's not the questions.
The issue is this, Mr. Speaker. Let me just go straight to it. That is it government policy? Is it policy, Mr. Speaker, that the government can decide to wake up one day and gazette a place that is populated by people and their livestock and their animals and whatever, and they designate it as a forest where there is no forest in the first place?
Order, Honorable Kamket. You don't lazily, and I use this word, come in and try and turn a question that was filed by an honorable member on a substantive matter and turn it into a debate that's in your mind. Put that question yourself.
That's what I'm doing.
Proceed and
Yes,
put on the question.
yes, Mr. Speaker.
But you can't turn this one right now into that debate.
No, it's not a debate, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Can you ask a question? Supplementary question on the matter of the question by Honorable Mutunga, 130/2024. Please, let us stick to the rules of the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, the beauty of
because when you say that, then other members of Parliament who come from the same area will also demand to be given a right of reply. You see, right now you are giving, or you've taken a digression, a total digression. The House, the rules do not allow that. Ask a question on the basis of what's there in the order paper.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I stand guided. Yeah. Except, Mr. Speaker, the beauty of joyriding, Mr. Speaker, is that a member can inquire on any matter. And this is a matter of environment, Mr. Speaker. This is the Minister for Environment. And, Mr. Speaker, I have taken the liberty, because the Minister is here, and this matter has taken far too long, Mr. Speaker. And I thought I would just take...
It's a contentious matter.
And the women for Baringo is here.
Okay.
She knows
okay, ask the
that
question
petition has not been replied to. I have asked, is it policy for government to create a forest where there is none and try to evict people and settlers who have lived in a particular area for whatever reason, Mr. Speaker? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The MP for Mgwen, and then the MP for Butula, the MP for Budalangi, and the honorable member for Wajir South. Then, of course, we come back to Mutunga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity.
Yes.
First, I would like to thank the CS for climate change, forestry, environment, climate change, and forestry, Honorable Adan Duale, and his team, the PSS and the DG. My question goes on a case of forest land exchange program in Nandi County, in my constituency, Mgwen constituency, a scheme called Chepkumia, Kapkangani area.
And you expect the minister to prepare himself as you sit or stand on your feet and ask a completely different question from what is on the order paper.
Okay.
The rules are very clear.
Okay.
You
now,
ask a question, a supplementary question on the matter that's on the order paper.
Okay.
But if you want something else, file it.
Okay.
File it.
The question that is related to what is on the supplementary paper today, Honorable Speaker, is on we have a good program that the President has put in place on planting 15,000 trees across the country. 15 billion trees. Now, however, this matter has not had a substantial or a sustainable program. For example, a number of members here have raised that most of the trees have not been attended to. We plant and we leave it there. So we get a lot of them dying. So what is the minister having in place so that you can have that? Secondly, Mr. Speaker, and lastly, is many youth in my constituency were enthusiastic on this, and they came out in large numbers to prepare tree nursery beds, and they have a lot of trees, seedlings, that are matured, yet the government have not absorbed those or purchased these tree seedlings. So what is the minister doing so that we can help these youth? These trees have matured. Nandi County, for example, is raining almost throughout the year. Is it possible that we can purchase all these tree seedlings and plant them, even if we don't have budget now? Okay. The minister can organize for this budget allocation.
You have rested your case.
Thank
let
you.
him do that bit.
Okay.
Let him do the thinking for that purpose. And the next one is the Honorable MP for Butula. Be very brief.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. May I start by appreciating Waziri Duale for the explanation he has given to us in this House. It has been very clear, and a lot of us have learned a few things that we